Sejam muito bem-vindos ao Cultura de Excelência. Eu sou a Karen Ross e é um prazer receber vocês aqui. Aqui na Voitto, teremos encontros semanais onde vamos conversar com mulheres de todo o mundo sobre propósito, melhoria de processo e gentileza. Hi, everyone. How are you? I'm Karen Ross, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to the show. Here at Voitto, we'll be having weekly meetings where we'll be talking with women from around the world about purpose, process improvement, and kindness. And just before we start today's episode, I want to remind everybody if you haven't done so already, use this QR code that you're going to see right on your screen to download our handbook for the whole entire web series. It's filled with links and information and all of the insights from all of the different episodes. It's super simple. Just use the QR code and download. All right, now that everyone's had a chance to do that, I'm super excited about today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about how to overcome resistance and support the rise of women within different companies and organizations. And I have a fabulous guest and a fabulous friend to introduce to you today. And we're going to have a wonderful chat about this topic. And her name is Debbie Barnard Sears. And so, Debbie, I'm super excited you're on the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and tell the people actually where you're coming from today? Because I know there's a lot of people watching who would like to be where you are.
So I am very fortunate. In COVID, I have had the opportunity to spend my time in Dubai, UAE, in the United Arab Emirates. I have the wonderful privilege of working for an international company. I work for Joint Commission International as a consultant in their division. And I get the privilege of working with organizations all over the world. Our division covers everything outside of the United States. And I do that 3/4 time. And then the other part of the time, I actually have my own niche coaching and consulting practice where I work with women and both men, focused around how can we really work on ourselves to be even better leaders. As a lean practitioner, I think about it as doing pre-work with leaders so that when they go to their organizations, they're better equipped to help not only to achieve their personal goals, but the professional goals, and then also to empower and help their teams as well. So I get to do work that I love in a place that I love.
I love it. And you help so many aspiring leaders, both women and men. And I know when I thought about who's the best person for this episode, the truth is I knew that you would be a great person to chat with. So we have some questions to start with. And so the first one is, why are diverse teams good for companies? Why should we be looking to help more women become leaders in organizations?
Well, when you look outside of, just regular quote unquote business, so I like to use the example of sports teams. I don't play a lot of sports, but I have followed amazing sports coaches. And I think for that question, when you look at teams, they to get the best results. So, like in American football, they have an offensive side, they have a defensive side. If you ever watched a rowing team and where the leader sits, and every single member has a role. And so teams are able to achieve their goals, to win the big, annual trophies, etc., by making sure that they have a diverse group of people with diverse skills in order to achieve their goals. And there's a growing literature that organizations that are more diverse, both from a perspective of, of a wide range of people from various ethnic backgrounds, but also that male female balance. There's a growing literature that says when we have a team that includes women at all levels of the organization. So, just not in the trenches or the entry level roles, but also sitting at the board and the senior team levels, that those organizations do better. So, there's a business case for making sure that we have women at all levels of the organization.
I love that, Debbie. And I agree with it both from my personal experience, and I've seen a lot of that literature too. Now, I know that many women are still finding it hard to move up into higher level teams and move up into leadership. What can organizations do to promote that healthy diversity and kindness and help women rise up through those ranks?
So, when I get the opportunity as I'm interacting with leaders, both from my work as a consultant in a healthcare accrediting body, in my work, looking at how can you improve your organization, we always start the conversation about what are your intentions? What are your hard goals for the organization? And then we know in order to achieve those hard strategic goals that we set, that we have to make sure that the heart, I had the amazing opportunity to be coached and mentored by an extremely seasoned lean practitioner. And I could remember, Coach Pascal repeating to us all the time, our senior team, and to our board about the importance of the combination of the heart or the head goals, but also the heart goals. And when we talk about, thinking with the heart, it's really bringing those skills into the organizations that help us to relate to not what is the work, that's often the hard goals, but how you work. And so there's been a big shift. We used to talk about soft skills. Now we talk about power skills. So that ability to, how do we use emotional intelligence? How do we communicate effectively within the organization? COVID-19 has raised the issue around how are you, how agile, how adaptable you are, how creative, how well can you collaborate, how can you manage time and resources within the organization. So I think those leaders that are always willing, to have the speech, when we publish, this is our way of working. So we often have the speech, we have the public, what we say publicly, but to really bring into their organization and go beyond what I like to say is yes, but leadership. When we believe something that should occur, but when we're having the hard discussions at the board table, and it may require that we actually have to do something, for real, then we start coming up with excuses. And I call that yes, but leadership. So I think it's leaders really saying all those things when that we articulate when we're talking to the media, that we actually bring that into our organizations so that indeed we're creating cultures of kindness, cultures of safety. Because again, there's a growing body of literature that says organizations where people feel safe, they do more innovative and fabulous things. So what happens? The organization benefits. So it's just not something that's nice to do. It's something that as leaders we need to be doing every single day. It's like practice, keep practicing, keep practicing.
I love that. And I think it ties directly into our next question because I know so many women, who are working and who may aspire to be leaders. And they look at a job description of the role that's above them, or maybe two roles above them, and they think, oh, well, I have some of these qualifications, but I don't have all of these qualifications, and I'm just not sure whether I should apply, and I'm not sure about, you know, my own skills, both those technical skills or the power skills, not the soft skills, right? And then they don't apply, they don't feel like they're ready for leadership. So how can organizations actually encourage those women who are in not leadership roles yet, in employee roles? How can they encourage them actually to step up into those leadership roles?
So I'm going to start. I'm going to tell you a little, one other point about my background. So I'm a nurse by training, so been in healthcare all my life. But my work was in human resource management and development. And so I have sort of like an unusual kind of background, nursing. I also have an undergrad in applied behavioral science. So I've always had this combination of in healthcare, technically, clinically, from a science base, how do we take care of patients? But because of additional learning, I've always been driven by how can we make sure that we have the most effective organization. And so I think organizations that really want to encourage female leadership, there's one thing that I recommend to them is when they're writing those job descriptions, those job postings, be careful of the notion of experience. Because often that word, when we list that word in job descriptions, job postings, etc., it is the greatest barrier to creating a diverse workforce, because often we're looking at how long have you been in a role, instead of looking at what is the potential. And something that one of my nursing professors taught me very early in my nursing career. He was a former nursing professor, one of my nursing professors, and he became one of my mentors. And he taught me earlier that experience and expertise is not the same. And I'll always remember, he used example. He said, you can spend 7 years at an organization, and there are two journeys. You can have 7 years of experience, meaning that you've worked, you've developed, you've gained additional skills, and now you're much more robust than when you entered the organization, 7 years previously. And he said, but there are others that, although they've been working for an organization, they really only have 1 year of experience, because all they've done is repeated that same year over and over again. So, same job, no innovation, no personal development, no on the job training. They just did the same thing over and over and over again. And so I think organizations who want to be creative and really achieve those big goals have to be creative in their HR strategies. And so, yes, you want some, experience. You may be looking for a certain, baseline of education, but there's a whole space of how can we evaluate and look for the potential. Look for skills that that cross over. A mom who chose to leave the workforce because she wanted to invest time in growing her kids. Well, some time management. If you have two or three kids that you have to juggle, manage schedules, be the president of the PTA, manage a church group, manager, a group out there in the community. It's like sit and listen to people's stories, and you'll be amazed when you start listening and you start listening for crossover skills. You'll realize that here is this person applying to for you for a manager job, but that person has the skills of a CEO. They have managed a whole company during that 4 years. Some people say you have a gap in your employment history. So we have to be innovative so that we're listening not only for quote unquote experience, but we're actually listening for those skills, the expertise that the person can bring to our organizations.
Oh my goodness, I love that. And especially since, I was the CEO of my own family for 14 years, juggling two kids, homeschooling, doing a variety of things. I learned more from that time than almost anything, right? Ask a busy mom how to get something done. You're going to get that amazing time management. Absolutely. I love it that you had such specific suggestions like, you know, be careful about the word experience. I love that. That's so actionable for companies. So, do you have any other specific suggestion for action for companies that are still closed to the development of women in leadership roles? What's one program or action that they could actually start using right away to help them move along for inclusion and diversity and to support women in leadership?
So I companies, if they don't have it already, need to have defined mentorship and coaching, mentorship and coaching programs, because especially you already have women. If you have women in your organization, um, why aren't we developing them? From Lean, we have an expression that most of us who've been involved in any lean systems transformation is the goal is not just to train the quality improvement team. The goal is if we have 3,000 employees, my goal is to support all 3,000 employees to become actively engaged in saying every single day, how do I do my job with excellence, but also how can I improve my job? So organizations who want to achieve big, that's the first thing. You need to have mentorship, coaching and development programs. And if you're serious about making sure that your boardroom and your director, your manager, your vice president, when you sit around the table at those levels, if you are truly serious about wanting it to be diverse, then you will have targeted programming so that you are building the skills. What's the payoff? You have long-term commitment. Employees who where their organizations invest in them and help them to develop and creates a pathway for them to advance. Usually, those employees are they have a loyalty. They are attached to their organizations. And then what do? They try to bring other amazing people that they know to that organization, right? So the organization benefits when you invest in ensuring that you're looking at am I helping my female leadership potential candidates to develop, and of course looking at diversity in every single way according to communities that we live in, etc. Basically, our workplaces should reflect the diversity of the countries that we live in. Another tangible that I would offer to organizations, I've been learning more and exploring the concept of a personal board. So, and this is a combination of what the employee can do and what the organization can do. So, helping young or aspiring leaders to bring around them a personal board of persons. So usually we recommend like, about 6 persons or so, with diverse experience. So someone who can help you to connect, someone who can act as a sponsor, someone who's willing to share information, someone who may be an influencer in there within your professional group, so that there is someone to help you along the journey. Because unfortunately, to really develop your skills as a leader is not a one and done. It's actually a journey. So having a personal board who can support you along that journey is something that companies can support. And then it's also something that the individual can say, you know what, I'm going to be a part of shaping my own destiny.
I love that, Debbie, and I love that idea of a personal board. It's so creative, and it actually ties into the next question. The next section of questions are really my favorite because they're from Voitto students. And of
Oh,
course, if we don't have students asking questions, how are they going to learn? And this is so important. How can we inspire girls in family or in school, high school, middle school, elementary school, to start to think of themselves as leaders and have the purpose of being leaders? I think in Lean we also say build equality at the source, right? How can we bring that right up from the beginning?
so I'm going to use an example that I saw just a few days ago on social media. Someone shared a link to this amazing teacher. She had a mirror in her classroom and the words "I am," and she called each student up, and they were supposed to come up and repeat an affirming thought about them. And so you had these little kids repeating, I am amazing. I'm a great a great sports player. I'm smart. So I think that's what we have to do in our homes and communities to inspire our young people, and especially our young women. And then I do these postings every day. So I'm always looking for pictures that send a strong message. And I found one the other day where this little girl that looks like me, so the browner hue, she was dressed beautifully, and across her t shirt, it said, Future Leader. And so I think creating environments for our girls where they are encouraged to step into their leadership power. When I was growing up, a young girl in my community who was good at organizing and seeing how things looked, we would be called, you're bossy, right? And so I think that the journey now is for us to take away those judgmental terms and really encouraging, the young girls in families and in schools to step into some of those natural skills that they already have, but which, if we're not careful, that in our homes, in our schools, in society, they're actually viewed as being negative. So creating those early mentorship opportunities, creating those opportunities. Some schools nowadays will have where, girls are learning how the thought of running your own business. So really early. So, putting affirming that